place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going, safe not safe. Before you cross me, look both ways. Leaving the scene with no trace, none in my league. You out of place, I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going, state to state.
What's going on, guys? It's your host, your boy, George Mackay, back in the Straight Stock Studios. Now, this episode's going to drop right before I'm back in the commentary booth, calling play-by-play next to the worst person alive, Adam Hayes. And one of the matches I'm looking most forward to calling is Jesse Amato versus Tyler Hill in this, hopefully, final end-all, be-all confrontation. But with me right now is none other than the Canadian bad boy, Tyler Hill, who wasn't too happy with me that I went to Jesse Amato first, but we'll get into that, I guess, as the conversation goes. Tyler, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm actually doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm all right. So, I want to talk history for a little bit, and then I want to get into, obviously, everything to do with New Frontier and where we are at this point. But one of the first things, actually a good story, I think this will lighten the mood between you and I. First time I saw you in person was at CWF, and you came out, and you had your championship, and you started banging it against your head. And I think you were just in the moment, not realizing that before the bell even rang, you had already started bleeding. And my daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, he's already bleeding." And I said, "Well, I've seen enough of Tyler Hill in person to know that this is normal, but not this early on. I mean, this is just an entrance. The bell has not even rang yet. And here we are."
Yeah, so that's actually a funny story. So we just got the brand new NWX title. Okay, and I always did the thing where I headbutt everything, whether it's my crutch that I had or it's the title. That's my entrance shtick. So yeah, I came out and it's the brand new belt, and I was like, oh, here we go, and I go and headbutt it. Didn't think anything of it, and then I get in the ring, and Harry D there is my referee, and he comes over to me and he goes, "Bro, you're bleeding," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Who bleeds in an entrance?" and I look at him and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I had white wrist tape on. So I like do the whole head tap thing, my whole like just covered in blood. And I'm like, well, that's good. Like, because like CWF just got the brand new canvas. Like I'm like, oh no. Yeah, that was the last time I headbutted the title.
Yeah. It was one of the few times where you can say that you got beat by a belt without another wrestler having to use the belt.
Yeah, like just what are the odds? Like, I didn't even try to bleed and I bleed. Like I can't even help it.
So before we drop our conversation, I always drop the mini host conversation the Saturday before. Now, one of the things that you guys talked about, which I found very interesting, I had already known that, but it was kind of cool to gauge her reaction, is the amount of years you were actually wrestling before you switched into this deathmatch style. Now, I want to talk history, of course. What makes Tyler Hill wake up one day after he's been wrestling for so long and say, you know what? I'm going to switch this up. I'm going to go this way, a way that is very niche in wrestling. It's respected and it's appreciated, but it is not the norm, if you will.
To be completely honest with you, it was actually a home when I didn't have one. And what I mean by that is I was with CWF and various promotions for 8 years or so. But then as wrestling and things do, falling outs happen and things, I'm not going to get all into the details and everything. But yeah, it just came up that I wasn't really going anywhere besides busted knuckle. Like it was just I had a bad past in wrestling with a lot of things, and I burned a lot of bridges like when I first started because I was young. I started this when I was 15 years old, 16 years old. So like I was young with an attitude, thinking I was all that when I really wasn't. So I didn't really have anything going for me, and then Shawn kind of said, like, why don't you come out to these Death Proof shows? Like, why don't you come check them out? He's like, see what's up. So I go down there, and yeah, what was the first one I saw? I want to say it was Death Proof versus Fridge, and it was in Hamilton, and Shawn and Cash were wrestling, and they were doing this thing with a table wouldn't break, and I fell in love with everything that they were doing. It was super cool. The whole show, everything about what they were doing. then Reesberg Bustin' Knuckle messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you do an angle with Shawn here? Because we already were doing something in CWF. So he said, why don't you do something here? And yeah, maybe we'll like throw a motto in there and something like that. We'll get it going." And I was like, okay, cool. I didn't know what I was walking into. Like Shawn told me what I was walking into. Like I knew like there were barbed wire ropes, and I knew that like it wasn't gonna be fun, you know. But I didn't understand the adrenaline rush that I was gonna get, like that I was gonna get off that. Like it was just, it's almost like it didn't hurt when it was happening. You know what I mean? Like we took a ladder and put like 200 feet of barbed wire on it. I got slammed into it and just bounced down the ladder. And yeah, it was just after the match, like after all the pain I was in and everything else, after the match, I got to the back and I was like just like woo, like it was just so much adrenaline. I couldn't even like shake it. And I was like, you know what? I need to keep doing this. I think this is like my calling right now. I think this is just, and you know what? I'm glad I did because you know I got to wrestle some sweet opponents. Like I've been in the ring with Casanova, Valentine, Schlack, G Raver, like some states guys, the Warheads, all the guys from Ontario. It's been great, and I've been getting booked all over because of it, and it's been awesome. So
Absolutely. No, it's great. Like, I mean, I think that's when I discovered you much in the Death Proof stuff because it was easily accessible, online and stuff like that. And you could find clips here and there. And it was just so cool. It was great to see Canadian boys, some of the most hard hitting guys in wrestling that don't get enough appreciation for how hard we can hit.
Yeah.
And doing all this stuff that, is so normal now because of ECW and that whole generation of coming in. And to see us doing it, but giving our own Canadian flavor to it. Like I've seen some matches from all over Canada. There was just one promotion. I can't remember which province it was in, but they had a Canadian bacon match. So they had frying pans around the ring and Canadian bacon is cooking in it. And the object is to burn your opponent with as much bacon grease as you possibly can.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, I mean, enough said with that to the fact that maybe it's not always the best ideas, but hey, we at least try them once. We do. We try them once.
Some people look at like for instance, Warhead, myself, Shawn, and they're going like, "Oh, you're going through planes of glass and you're doing this," and they're looking at us like we're crazy. I'm looking at guys like that and going, "What is wrong with you?" Like, and I find lately too, and especially with deathmatch stuff, I find that it's turned into like who can do the biggest fall and like who can jump off the highest thing and who can do the craziest spot. It's not all about that. I hit hard, but I'm very, very aggressive style where like I'm just right in your face, very, very realistic. Just don't give you room to breathe. You don't have to jump off the highest thing to get yourself over. Like sometimes just slowing it down and just screaming in somebody's face is good enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's oh.
I get what you're saying. Now, in terms of, again, you mentioned going through tables. I mean, going down a ladder wrapped in barbed wire. I've seen you put your head through more things than a human body should possibly put their own head through. But again, it's your head. It's your head, your choice. You're allowed to do what you want to do with it. But in terms of all the crazy bumps you've taken, when you look at this past 8 years or so of deathmatch wrestling, if you look at one bump and you're like, damn, I'm surprised I got up from that. Is there one that sticks out in your mind?
Yes. For the most part, there was a suplex I was supposed to take on the floor. And I'm not going to name names or name drop anybody, but I went to, for some reason, I don't know what he was thinking, but he went to like stall me on the floor. So like I went over thinking I'm going to take like a fast suplex because it's concrete. And when I went down, he kind of like brain busted me because like I went over and he went to stall and everything just got kind of confused. And like, yeah, like I smashed the back of my head right off the concrete. And like I'm laying there like doing the whole finger tingle, the toe check, you know what I mean? Like all the stuff like that. Like, I've taken exploders on the back of my neck. Shawn, for instance, a lot of my deathmatch fun stories are with him, but he jumped off like a 20-foot ladder and the table that we were using to go through, actually, it's a funny story. So there was a metal bar. You know, some of the tables have that square metal bar that follows the whole perimeter.
Hmm.
Well, he had one job, and it was take the metal bar out from underneath the table. Well, I went to go do some errands because I was like, this is a while back, so I was doing some errands for the promoter and things like that. And I came back and I didn't think anything of it. You know, where we go to the spot, he's up there 20 feet in the air. Well, I'm laying there, and before I got on the table, I realized that bar was still there, and I'm going, oh my god, we're gonna die. Like, this is not gonna be good. And I'm laying there, and he goes up there, and I'm like, please just break, please break, just praying, like. And he comes off, he hits me, and man, like, first of all, knocked the wind out of myself. Number two, knocked me out off the concrete because it was like just break, you know. So like, first it knocks me out, then we fall. I smashed my head off the concrete, elbow got screwed up. I think Shawn busted his elbow. Like, we were both sitting there in the emergency room, the hospital afterwards, with people just looking at us like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, that for actual falls or anything like that, I've actually been pretty lucky to not have anything where it's gonna like ruin me or destroy me or anything like that. I've been pretty favorable though, yeah.
That's seriously insane. And you've mentioned Shawn quite a bit in the first, 10 minutes of this
Yeah.
conversation. Let's talk Shawn. Let's talk your brother. Let's talk this man who got you into this crazy death proof side of wrestling, but also is somebody that Jesse Amato spoke very highly of, and things that were done in the past through his, transgressions and his demons that he had to fight on his own. But let's not go down that corridor quite yet. Let's talk Shawn. How did the relationship start with you and Shawn? When did, unfortunately, things take a turn in Shawn's health? And when did we eventually have to say goodbye to Shawn?
So Shawn and I first met in guys, he was awesome. So we first met for CWF. I guess he was doing a busted knuckle pro wrestling show in Niagara Falls, and Chris Thorne actually saw him there at a show, and just he messaged me, and he's like, "You got to see this." Sent me a clip, and it was him jumping off a ladder, on the outside back of the ring, and he's like, "You should work this guy." And I was like, "All right." So he puts the match together, and it's day of. Shawn messages me, and he goes, "Hey, like, meet at this and this restaurant." And I'm like, for breakfast. And I'm like, oh, okay, like, that's never happened to me before. Like, because we're both from St. Catharines, right? Like, we're both local, right? So I go down there, and this guy is just he paid for breakfast. All he wanted to do was just have a conversation with me, get to know me, get to feel me out. What kind of person am I? You know, talk about the match, what we're gonna, and right off the hop, we kicked it off. You know, just I've never had a connection with anybody that quick before. It was just like we are best friends within the first 5 minutes of talking, you know. And I guess anybody that's ever talked to Shawn kind of had that vibe, like he was really open with everybody. But yeah, and we did a storyline there for a while, and like I mentioned earlier, we did the thing in Busted Knuckle there. And it just yeah, we were super close for a long time, and then for 4 or 5 years he was my best friend, and then yeah, we were actually working together, not on the same site, but we were working for the same company. And I was supposed to drive him home after work, and he was doing wall foundations, like pouring them, concrete pouring. So like there's something on the edge of it called a walk, where you got two by eights that you walk around and you can do your job or whatever, right? I guess I was doing the waterproofing, like, so I didn't see it, but I got back to the site and Shawn wasn't there, and I'm going, what's happening right now? And one of our best friends comes running over, and he's crying, he's upset, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, Shawn's in the hospital, man. I'm like, what's going on? Apparently he had a seizure just out of nowhere, like 10 feet in the air, while just walking on the edge, and he just fell like 10 feet, like head first, like straight into the like right into the hole. Like, and it was middle of winter, and yeah, it was just out of nowhere. He didn't remember anything, obviously, but he woke up in the hospital, and they told him that he had a tumor in his head. So he called me, and yeah, it was obviously an emotional wreck for the both of us. And yeah, so they sent him out to McMaster, and to show how tough this guy is, he had a brain tumor, had to get he wanted to be home for Christmas for his daughter. That was his biggest thing. I have to be home for Christmas. He had to get surgery 2 days before Christmas. Gets brain surgery, comes out Christmas Eve, recoups enough to be able to go home for Christmas after brain surgery, not even 24 hours later. And to be honest with you, he probably would have walked out anyway. Yeah, no, he was that kind of guy. But yeah, and yeah, and everything from there, the calls and everything else. Once we found out that he actually had the brain cancer, and and things were going to take a turn, and he wasn't going to be able to wrestle and everything. It was just, it was a wreck, and to watch. I don't know if you've known anybody go through cancer or anything like that. Any kind of real illness that there is no coming back from, there's no cure for. Um, it's it's hard, man. Like, you see that guy I obviously you can't see him every day, but I was seeing him 2-3 times a week for the first couple of years. And then obviously, like, it was a couple times a week, one day a week. You always made sure you had to see him. And then yeah, it was just sorry.
No, it's okay. Take your time.
He was doing so well, and then just like he started wrestling again, everything was good, and then yeah, everything just it was good until it wasn't good. The doctor gave him 5 to 7 years when they first diagnosed him, and he made it 3 or 4. That's rough, and if anybody knew Shawn, he was it's always the good one. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is. The guys that sorry. Anyway, yeah, it's and now it's just I got stuff up there for me. It's just now you have to learn to move on. I'm still not over it. Like, I still get very emotional just even talking about him. Yeah, Shawn made me the person I am today. And to put all the wrestling stuff aside, I know that to the fans and whoever's gonna be watching this, like, I know I'm breaking some of those rules with the kayfabe stuff and everything else, but yeah, Shawn was my best friend for 7 years, from when I first wrestled him until he passed away. And if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at in wrestling today. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be with the family I got right now. And yeah, it's crazy, and yeah, yeah, it's wild. So when I get upset, that people name drop Shawn, or people do things, and I'm sure we're gonna get into it, but they have to understand where I'm coming from too, because you don't do things. You just, I love that guy, and it's hard. A lot of tough guys and everything else, they won't use the L word, but I absolutely love that guy. He was my best friend. He was my brother, and to watch him go through what he went through and to be as strong as he did, man, you can't learn something off that, and there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I was a cocky kid, man. Like, when I first met him, I was an asshole, and I can say that straight out. I made a lot of heat with a lot of people in the business and everything, and he straightened me out, and yeah, I'm forever thankful for everything that he's ever done, so.
Absolutely. You know what they say? They always say that at a crossroads in your life, someone will come into it that will help you go right or go left. And it sounds like Shawn came into your life at a moment where you're at that crossroads, and he steered you to who you are now, which is the best version of yourself. this is the first time you and I have ever sat down in a real conversation, but everything you said there, I could feel the genuine sorrow, the genuine pain. And I never knew him, but if I did ever meet him, when I go to the Great Beyond and I meet him because I know he's there, I'm going to shake his hand and be like, everything I've heard about you is just absolute badassery and genuine kindness. So rest in peace, always remembered, never forgotten. And I know that he's looking down right now and he's smiling at all your accomplishments since he's gone. And like you said, you have to move forward. You have to, you can never, the best line I've ever heard from a rap song is, death leaves a pain that nobody could heal, but the memory leaves something that nobody can steal, which is incredible. That's Ant. It's a song he did for his sister. Unforgettable. Yeah, it was all over Facebook, and it's the last line of his verse, and it's a very powerful line, and it sounds like that's where we are right now. You know, you've lost something. The pain is still always going to be there.
Oh yeah.
But when you talk about the memories, like the fact that he had one job to do, man, he just had to take the bar off the fucking table, and he didn't do it. He didn't do it. You know.
But it's crazy that every memory that, even if it was a bad one, you know, and people will relate if they lost somebody or things like that. But even if it's a bad one, you know, for some, the one that would have made you hate the guy when, or the person when they were around, you know, automatically all of a sudden just, you don't want to forget that, you know, and it's absolutely, if you've never lost anybody, you just won't understand, I guess, like that you've been close to. It's just one of those things, you know. It is what it is.
Absolutely, I get that. So let's talk. Actually, you know what? Before we get into the seriousness of everything, can you tell me I mean, it sounds like you and Shawn were in emergency rooms quite a bit, and I'm talking not before the cancer. I'm talking while the wrestling was very active. Can you look at one memory back then and just say when you were staring at each other in the emergency room, where you're sitting side by side and you're bleeding from your head, he's bleeding from his arm, who knows what, and somebody walks in worse shape than you guys, and you go, fuck, I'd hate to be that person right now. That's horrible.
Yeah, I actually can. So yeah, we're sitting there obviously right after that match. Actually, Buddy's got a busted elbow. My back, I got knocked out. I'm getting checked out. My everything else. This guy walks in, and I don't know where he was working, but he had a piece of rebar. He had a rubber boot on and a piece of rebar through his boot, through his leg, out the other side. And he wasn't even, he obviously in shock, but he wasn't even phased. You know, he's sitting there and we're just looking at him and he's looking at us and he's like, what'd you guys do? Like, you know, we're just like, oh, we beat each other up. What'd you do? And yeah, you know what? When you look at the injuries that we've actually gotten, and this is a lot of deathmatch guys, you look at the injuries we've actually gotten, we should count ourselves lucky and favorable because there's no reason why you should be going through a plane of glass and not getting stitches. You know what I mean? Like,
why do it? Why still deathmatch wrestling now? Knowing all the injuries that you suffered, all the scars. Like you said, if you get a tan, you can't get a tan because all the scars are there.
Yeah, so like I got scars on my elbow. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, it's all over.
Yeah. So why do it? Why still do it? Is it for that rush that you're chasing, or is it to honor Shawn? What is it for you?
Well, it's a little bit of everything. You see, there's a lot of things I wanted to do for Shawn after it was done, and there's a lot of things that I've done now. 1 second, sorry. There's a lot of things that I do now that I still try to, like, in a way, top the things that he did, which is so almost impossible because the guy went through cactus and everything. But like bare feet thumbtacks, like there's just some things I will not do, like, you know. But man, I'm sorry. What was the question again? I'm having a brain fart here.
Why still do it, knowing all the injuries and that you've been able to walk away thus far?
I'm doing it mainly just because I want to prove that. Okay, so for the last few years, and actually for the whole wrestling career, but especially lately, there's been a lot of talk about how deathmatch guys are just backyard guys. And it's just, oh, they're untrained and they don't know what they're doing and they're not entertaining. Like, you look at No Ring North, these guys don't have a ring in their backyard. And like I said, we hear the stuff. You know, I'm not, no point of calling people, we hear the stuff, you know, and I'm almost at the point where I know, without trying to sound cocky, I know that I'm a good wrestler, you know, and I want to be able to incorporate, and I would love more people to do it. I want to be able to incorporate wrestling with deathmatch. I feel like in the last few years, and not just me, like me, Warhead, guys, that we've changed the look of deathmatch wrestling in a way, trying to add more. Like, look at Casanova Valentine. If anybody follows him on Instagram or anything, the guy's throwing wrestling moves and all his stuff now. You know, it's something that we're not just beating each other up with clubs anymore and walking away at the end. And look, we're trying to show that these guys, and not even myself, like, I want to show that maybe somebody that's not as experienced as I am, maybe not the best wrestler, can still go out in there and entertain people. You know, because wrestling, it comes in all different forms, man. It's not just being inside four ropes. And I feel like that's where a lot of things get misconstrued and things like that, is everybody just looks at it like it has to be this way or the hard way. Why? Why does it have to be like that? There's so many promotions and there's so many ideas that people have. If you feel like it's a good, Stan Lee said it perfectly. If you feel like what you have is a great idea and you feel passionate that that idea can do something for you, then do it. There's no reason why No Ring North should be getting a bad rep. Why? Because we don't use a ring. They should be getting, the guys, not just whatever, should be getting looked at going, man, these guys are bumping on concrete for fans entertaining. Like, man, good for them. Like, but no, you know, and it's just, I really want to prove that stereotype wrong. You know, I really want to just show that wrestlers can deathmatch and deathmatch guys can also wrestle. You know.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that, and I could see the passion when you talk about that. Now let's talk about kind of, I guess, the meat and potatoes of this. We went through the first half of this conversation, was fantastic. Now let's talk New Frontier. You and I both contacted by the matchmaker in different aspects. I was contracted because, well, let's be honest, if you're going to pair anybody with Hayes, it might as well be the second most adorable man in all of wrestling. You know, that's it. I don't know who the first most adorable man is, but I don't want to build up my ego. Now, the matchmaker contacts you and basically lets you know that you can confront, I guess, someone from the past, someone that shares a connection with yourself and Shawn in a lot of ways, being the bloodstained hurricane Jesse Amato, who stepped away 4 years from wrestling and decides to come back. And when the matchmaker contacts you and he gives you this opportunity, what goes through your head when you get that text message or that email or Facebook message, however he contacted you?
To be blunt, my initial reaction was, fuck you. That was because there's a lot of things people don't know. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Amato's past, it runs very, very deep. Okay. This goes back to before Shawn even passed away. And I don't know what everybody knows, but hell, let's get into it. So, back when Shawn was alive, we did a charity show. Okay, and I'm not going to rub all the details and everything else, but let's just say certain people didn't hold up their end of the bargain for this show. A lot of the money going to that show was for Shawn's daughter. Okay, we were putting into an RSP, something for Shawn to do, because he wasn't going to be around to do so. He knew that he wasn't, obviously it's brain cancer, you know, he knew he wasn't going to make it, so he did whatever he could to make sure that when she's 18, she either could buy a house or afford school or buy a car outright or just something to make it easier for her by a last thank you from dad. You know, and when he screwed us over at that show without getting into all the details, it took a lot. When I say it took a lot, not just from me, okay? When I say that Shawn was actually going to kill him, when Shawn would have killed you when I was at the New Frontier show, and those guys were dragging me out, and I said that Shawn would have fucking killed you. That's not a shoot. That's not me trying to get over. Those are straight. Okay, he literally buried himself to absolutely everybody, and then tried to act like it was completely okay. I don't care if it's been 5 years. I don't care if it's been. It could be 20 years. I don't care for him to come onto this podcast, and we're gonna get into it because for him to come onto this podcast and then go say it's apples to apples, oranges to oranges, it's been long enough. Those are his exact word for word quote that he said. That is not okay. It has not been long enough. It is not his call to tell me if it's been long enough. It is not apples to apples, oranges to oranges. To be get completely honest with you and get completely real with you, Shawn messaged me. Okay, me and Shawn, when you talk about friendship and you talk about, I don't know if you've ever had a brother like this, but if Shawn called and he said he didn't have to tell me what it was, he said I need to go do something, and you knew it wasn't going to be a good something, there was no questions asked. It was I'm picking him up. We're going to go deal with some shit. That was just the kind of relationship we had. We had that bond. And when it came after that charity show, even though he was fucked up and he was not in his best health, he looked at me and he said, "We're going." He found out where he lived. He found out everything. And I'm talking and I looked at him and I said, "No, it's not worth it." And something back then told me just this isn't right. It's just it's. I've been down this road before with you. It's not right. We're gonna take the high road on this one. And it took everything I had to make him not drive up to and go deal with his problem. And when Jesse can just act like the shit he did is okay, and just when you screw over not only Shawn, but you screw over Shawn's family, and Shawn is no longer here to defend that family. I don't care if it's 20 years from now. I will defend that family until the day I die. Why? Because that's the brotherhood that we have. So when a matchmaker calls me and he says, you can confront somebody from your past, show up to the show. And then I see about a couple weeks prior that Jesse Amato is wrestling Just Insane. Well, I didn't even have to think twice. I didn't care if it was anybody else from my past. Jesse Amato was not walking out of that building on his own 2 feet. Jesse Amato, and that's not just for me. That was because of people that are no longer here to do so. Jesse Amato screwed people over. Jesse Amato did not pay the piper. And if the piper is no longer here, how I will be that piper. I do not care. And Jesse Amato, even at the last New Frontier show, when I kicked him in the balls and I low blowed him, I said, "How does that feel? How does that low blow feel?" He talks like he has this remorse. I don't even think Jesse remembers. To be clear, you might look at me like I'm a piece of shit for saying that. He might have been on too many drugs back then. I don't know. But for him to come back now and say, "Oh, I've made it clear with Cash. I've made up with Warhead." To me, that shows the kind of friends you are. Because to me, you haven't done. You haven't. You message me if you want to come back. You fucked me over. You fucked my best friend over, and I didn't even get a call. Nothing. You want to message Cash? You want to message where the fuck was my call? I'm the guy who was his fucking best friend. I was the guy who lived in the city. I was the guy driving him to every show. I was the guy in his pocket. I was the guy who had my first death match with Jesse Amato. Where the fuck was my call? And then I'm getting looked at like I'm the piece of shit. I'm getting looked at like, "Oh, you said yourself, what the hell is he? He's an asshole. What the fuck? He's a piece of shit. The piece of shit of professional. Why am I the piece of shit of professional wrestling? Because I'm standing up for my best friend who's no longer here? Because you could ask anybody who's ever had that kind of relationship. And like I said, I don't know if you've ever had one. You don't have to tell me. That's not my business. But imagine that friend died like that. And you found out people were talking shit. You found out that they screwed him over. You found out that they fucked his family over. You don't think that you're going to lose your mind? Of course you are. So I'm sick of people not looking at it from my point of view. I'm sick of people that are just going, Jesse Amato going, oh, nobody knows what's up with Hill. Nobody knows what's going on with Hill. He knows exactly what's going on with me. Why don't you grow a set of balls and man up and come talk to me? But he didn't do that. So I went and I talked to him at New Frontier. That's what I did. I got his face and he pushed by me like he didn't give a shit. Go back and watch the footage. Yeah, I was in his face. I was screaming in his face, telling him not to come back, that it was my show. But he pushed by me. He didn't want to talk to me. So yeah, don't blame me for this whole thing. Blame Amato. Don't blame me because I am not the bad guy here. Blame the guy that pushed my shoulder all the way. Blame the guy that could have easily had a conversation with me and didn't. That's the guy that people should be blaming. But no, if people want to look at me, I'll be the martyr. That's fine. For years, I played asshole in every one of me and Shawn's storylines, even though we're best friends. People and just imagine. I mean, you were at the last New Frontier show. Just imagine the matches me and Shawn had, and we were really best friends. Imagine what the fuck I'm going to do to Jesse Amato on June 12th when it has to end. No matter what, it's unsanctioned. It has to end.
Well, and that's the fact of the matter, right? You got frustrated with me at the last New Frontier show because I gave Jesse Amato a platform. You came out, you were unhappy with me, and right after the show, what did I do? I walked up to you at the show. You were still heated. I said, "Hey, let's set this up." So here we are. We're having the conversation now. I'm giving you the platform. So I wanted to hear the real story, as you put it, and seeing the perspective. I do see both sides. Whether you want to hear that or not, I do see both sides of the story. Now, Jesse has said that he had a conversation with someone else who was in Shawn's inner circle, and he did try to send Shawn a message. Obviously, when things were going bad, a message was never checked on Facebook. He did mention that in the podcast as well. He's trying to make amends. Whether he's gone about it the right way or the wrong way. Can I ask you this, Tyler? Can I ask you this? June 12th, the barbed wire match. The ring is going to be, we're going to remove the ropes. We're going to surround it in barbed wire. It ends no matter what. It is unsanctioned. The matchmaker has said it's literally do whatever the fuck you two want to each other. But after this, we're moving on.
He's not walking out of that building. I'm telling you, he's not walking out of that building. I'm sorry to cut you off, but this match, see, Jesse, I've known he gave my first death match with Shawn. I know what Jesse's thinking. He's trying to play this head game. And then I go on, and then the matchmaker contacts me. Okay, the matchmaker contacts me and tells me, what are we going to do? How are we going to make sure that this ends on June 12th? So I told him straight up. Tell Jesse Amato if he loses, his career is over. I get what I want. But the matchmaker decided that whether I'm too valuable or not, my career was also not going to be on the line. But if I lose, I am no longer allowed to deathmatch wrestle again. And that right there intrigues me. Because look at the battles I've had. Look at the fights I've had. Look at people still talk about some of the ones I've had with Shawn. Those fights were when I had nothing to lose. Now I have everything to lose. Imagine the match that's going to happen on June 12th. Imagine the carnage that I'm going to put Jesse Amato through because my reputation's on the line. I have built that, and you could say Chad, you could say Mac, I don't care. I have put deathmatch wrestling on my back since Shawn's died. I have put it on my back since Jesse Amato's gone. I have been the one to show up, put on match of the night every single time I'm in a death match and leave. That's what I do. Now, if that's on the line, if everything I stand for, everything that I've built up is on the line, I am going to put Jesse Amato down for good. That's not a joke. That's not a storyline. That's not a stereotype. This is going to be unscripted violence. That is what's going to happen. These are two guys that do not like each other, surrounded by barbed wire. There is nowhere to go. There is nowhere to escape. We are going to hurt each other. I'm full out expecting to get my licks in. I mean, me and Amato at the last show there, we beat the hell out of each other.
Up and down every ounce of that building.
And I'm not going to say I respect Amato because as of this moment, I do not. As of this moment, I do not see me and Amato patching this up. As of this moment, one of us does not come back to New Frontier, and that's how this ends. And I almost feel, and this is, and I don't know what kind of pull you have. I don't know how this goes, but in a way, I don't even want to referee. Okay, I want to go until one of us doesn't stand anymore. It has to end. That's how it ends. You leave the refs in the back, you put two guys in barbed wire, and you let them fight until one of them has to win.
I don't have as much pull as you think, but I could send that request through the matchmaker, no problem. I have the contact information. Again, it's just matchmaker@matchmaker.com, so it's really not much of a. It almost sounds like a dating website. But Tyler, let me ask you this: when the matchmaker contacted you and Jesse Amato was going to be returning to the ring, have you had any contact with Shawn's daughter, his wife, his family? Is there any contact in knowing what you're doing here in respect to Shawn? Have they made any comment, or has there been any discussion between you and Shawn's family?
For this, no. What people need to understand is wrestling for Shawn's family, and I'm not going to speak for them, and I don't want to I don't want to cross any lines or say and put words in anybody's mouth or anything like that. But watching Shawn do what he loved, even with the brain cancer, it was hard to watch. So for them to hear about the wrestling or to watch the wrestling, I mean, we brought them into a No Ring North show just because we had the Shawn Emo title, and they stayed and they left. Like, they saw the belt and they left. Like, it's hard for them, right? So yeah, there hasn't been a lot of contact with them. No, not with this anyway. But then
Do you
again,
still have a relationship with them personally?
yeah,
outside of wrestling?
I'll still reach out and everything else, make sure things are okay and everything else. But yeah, for the most part, I know what Shawn would have wanted in this situation. I know that if Jesse Amato would have came back and Shawn was around, Shawn would have did the exact same thing that I did in that situation. So when it comes to talking to them, I feel like I'm doing right by Shawn right now as it is.
So why stop Shawn all those years ago? I mean, I get his health wasn't the best, but why stop him then and then do what he would have done then now?
Because of the way he went about it. It's, you know what, things would have been much different if Jesse Amato would have gave me a mess. That's the crazy part. Is this is the whole wrestling industry? It's built on respect. That's what it's built on. And Jesse Amato did a very, very blindsided thing when he messaged everybody, even got himself booked on a show, and I wasn't even nobody. He didn't even, like, that's why I said I didn't even know he was coming back until after the matchmaker contacted me, and then I seen Jesse Amato versus Justin Saint. Man, I got hot. I instantly got hot. Like, I was not. Obviously, it's not New Frontier's fault. It's not Justin Saint's fault. It's not any of their fault. But I told Jesse Amato way back when I saved his ass back then. I told him, do not come back to professional wrestling. Do not. And when you heard it when I came back at that I said, what did I tell you if you came back? He knew the repercussions. He knew everything that was going to happen. He decided to come back and take the gamble. He says in your podcast, Kid Hill was sitting there the whole show. You know, he was sitting there. I saw him. He was at the beginning of the show. He could have talked to me before the show, but he didn't. Well, why didn't he? Why didn't I? Because that's exactly what he did. He went and looked at everybody, talked to everybody but him, and then went behind his back and did something. No, so what I did, I went. At least I had the balls to get in his face. At least, whether it was after his match, whatever else. At least I had the balls to confront him in person about it, not just hide behind New Frontier banner and hopefully it was going to be okay. I told him you can't hide from me. You cannot hide from me when you piss me off like that. I told you I will defend that name for 20 years, until the day I die, I will defend his name. He crossed the line, and he's going to pay for it.
Fair enough. I can't argue with with your resolve. I can't argue with the points you've made. Valid. I do see both perspectives, but all I could say is because this is not going to be a match for the weak at heart. Like Tyler said, this is not a wrestling match. This is not a gimmick match. This is not to put butts in the seats. This is two guys that don't care who's in that building except one another, and they're going to hurt each other.
This is going to be a bare knuckle street fight, is what this is going to be. Just add the barbed wire. It is a bare knuckle bar fight. Just surround two guys with barbed wire, and hopefully both of them walk away. It's not going to happen. But hopefully, like I said, you guys all want to hope Jesse Amato walks away. All the Jesse Amato fans, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to kick Jesse Amato's ass all over the rock pile, and then I'm going to put him down. I'm going to make him realize that he made a mistake coming back. And you know what? While he's in there, I'm going to make sure that he apologizes to every fan at the same time. I'm going to grab him by his face. I'm going to show the crowd. I'm going to make him apologize for everything that he's done to everybody. Because Jesse Amato did not just screw me over. He did not screw Shawn over. He screwed everybody over when he screwed up on that show. And I'm going to make him apologize to everybody. Because I don't believe Jesse Amato. Jesse Amato says, I reached out to this person, I reached out to that person. Jesse Amato went and took money off a charity. Don't think that when you go and talk about, oh, I did this, I did that. Dude, you're not worth trusting anymore. I don't care if you're clean. I don't care if you have a kid now. You're not worth trusting. Who's going to go and do something like that and then expect it? No, man. No. He's got his coming. Man. He's got his coming. It ends June 12th. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. That will be what the matchmaker wanted. And again, I have to ask this. Nobody knows who the matchmaker is. Again, I'm looking at you straight in the eyes right now, Tyler. I have no idea who the matchmaker is. But do you think this is somebody else that has either a grudge or just a sick obsession to watch you two kill each other? I mean, inviting you to that first show was like throwing a lit match on a can of gasoline. Like, what did he think was going to happen?
To be completely honest with you, I don't think it's anybody from me and Amato's past at all. And this is why. Mainly because this is a matchmaker. He's running New Frontier Pro Wrestling. He's not just running Tyler Hill versus Jesse Amato. When this ends on June 12th, he still has a job to do. This isn't, you know what I'm saying? This isn't just some guy who's looking to watch two guys that he knew back in the day, you know, or she. I don't want to get anybody upset or anything, you know, but yeah, I don't think it's that. I think what happened was there was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. I think what happened was the matchmaker knows somebody, and the matchmaker got some inside details, and now the matchmaker is trying to do what's best for his show. You can't tell me that taking two guys that absolutely hate each other and putting them on a show isn't good for business. Of course, people are going to pay to watch that. You know, it is what it is. It's legal fighting. You know, at that point, you know what I mean. Of course, people are that's gonna put asses in the seat. So in a way, I don't think it's anybody from the past. Man, I thought it was you for a while.
Not me, I promise you. Not me.
And I thought it was Adam Hayes for a bit, as I said before. I have no idea anymore. I mean, all I see is a matchmaker symbol pop up, and I get told, hey, this is what you're going to be doing. Besides that, the money gets sent to me, and I'm paid. I'm happy. So, hey, why wouldn't I be happy getting paid to kick somebody's ass that I've wanted to kick his ass for? You know what I mean? It's to me, I'm not going to lose this match. I'm telling you right now. There is not a shred of doubt in my mind that it's not going to happen. So, on top of getting to retire Jesse Amato, I also get to get paid to retire Jesse Amato. That's a win-win for me, buddy. That's a win-win.
Absolutely. Fair enough. All I could say is good luck on June 12th. I will be there to call the match play-by-play. It will be a definite challenge because it'll be the first time I'm calling that type of match. but good luck to you, and I hope you get what you want. Tyler, before I let you go, if there's anybody out there who's not following your journey on social media, where can I find all things Tyler Hill leading up to June 12th?
Instagram with it would be CBV_Tyler_Hill. Facebook would just be the Canadian Bad Boy, Tyler Hill. You could pop it up on there. And yeah, for the most part, it's Facebook and Instagram. But up to June 12th, I know that there's a video coming that we got to do and things like that. So I will be posting, I will be advertising, and people are gonna see it. So there's no way that there's gonna be an excuse for them to say that they didn't miss this show. They have to see this show. So
150%. Well, I hope now that, I was able to give you the platform that I gave Jesse, I hope at least things between you and I are now copacetic.
Yeah, they are. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that the facts that were being thrown are accurate facts. And the ones that Amato was throwing were not. Yeah, we made up at the show and everything else. We're good now, but I was not happy there for a little while. But yeah, you know what? We're good now, and yeah, I guess I'll see you in person on June 12th.
Yes, sir, you will. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Tyler Hill, Jesse Amato, you're not going to want to miss this. Check it out in person at the Rock Pile on June 12th, or wait for it to show up on Twitch. But however you watch it, this one will be one to remember. As always, I'm your host, your boy, George Mackay. Peace, love, and wrestling. See you next time. Peace.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week for another great episode on all available podcast platforms and hosted on Podbean. Also, check us out on YouTube at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And if you feel the need to buy some sweet merch, check us out on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Leaving the scene with no trace, not in my league. You out of place. I'm not at the top, I'm outer space. Can't eat with us, we're out of place. I'm doing fine, I'm feeling great. You're not my fan, you can't relate. Straight talk going, stay to